What if everything you see is just half the story? What if every storm, every coincidence, every moment of fear, love, and inspiration is influenced by unseen entities working from behind our reality? Ancient civilizations called them gods. Others called them angels, demons, or spirits. But what if they've always been here, quietly shaping history and controlling your life from another dimension, behind the veil? The Chaos Pantheon from Warhammer, being empowered by the subconscious emotions, thoughts and desires of all living mortals in the galaxy, and their psychic tricks to control and forward their own plans, is one of the reasons why the universe of Warhammer is extremely terrifying. These dark gods are locked in an eternal multi-dimensional proxy war called the Great Game, to gain dominance and power over their realm. And they are a perfect example of chaotic gods controlling people from behind the scenes. The Chaos Gods will trick you with gifts, but these gifts are actually curses in disguise, used to corrupt your mind from the inside out, turning you into an abomination before your very eyes. And the idea that behind all the noise and drama of reality, there could be a grand metaphysical game where multiple deities are fighting for spiritual geopolitical territory, and the idea that we might just be playing into their hands without even knowing it, can truly be a cosmically terrifying idea.
If the gods are real, why haven't they punished me?
They have.
In the Game of Thrones universe, most of the characters are so focused on their own drama and survival that they fail to see that behind the scenes there is a dark war between fire and ice, R'hllor, the Lord of Light, and the Great Other. It could be that in this world, these two dark deities are stuck in a permanent proxy war where they use magic to fight against each other and use the characters as pawns to push their control over the region of Westeros. The characters are often pushed into magical situations that benefit one of these gods. Now, this is just one way to see the series, and it's not confirmed nor denied, but I like the idea that the Song of Ice and Fire is a frequency battle between the deity of fire and the deity of ice. And I think that the most interesting part is there's no way to confirm it, but there's a lot of evidence for it in the series. For example, it's very hard to deny that there's a fire god when you see fire priests resurrecting people from the dead.
Let me go!
Looks like the god likes me more than your butcher's boy.
Burn in hell!
He will. But not today.
Or it's very hard to deny the Great Other when there's a horde of undead ice zombies marching towards the wall. And then something dawned on me. If we are just pawns of deities above us, do we have any control over anything? Is there a way to escape their control and change our fates? The Force is a mystical energy that flows throughout the entire galaxy of Star Wars. The Force has two sides, the light side and the dark side. The dark side is about control, the control over outcomes, the control over power, the control over the Force itself. It's in this control that the dark side corrupts the Force user, making the user a force of chaotic destruction. This kind of Force user is what Star Wars calls a Sith, someone who is so obsessed with control that they end up destroying and hurting everyone and everything around them. The thing with the Sith is that they're sort of controlled by their emotions, almost triggered or rage-baited by past events in their life that cause them to be overflowing with rage. And the irony of the Sith is that they try so hard to gain control over everything, but in that energy and in that rage, they lose control over everything. Whereas the Jedi, the users of the light side of the Force, represent release and letting go of their need for control, even to the point where the Force guides its will through them, which tends to be things that are more harmonic in nature. The Force itself is a mystery. It's the omnipresent energy that lives inside all living things and binds the universe together like code in the computer. And what makes the Force so interesting is that the Force is almost like its own character.
For my ally is the Force, and a powerful ally it is.
It has its own motives, which seem to be more about universal balance and fulfilling the stories of characters. And yes, the Force is a magical power, but it also works as a deity of fate that's job is to make sure that stories play the outcome that they're supposed to. I think a lot of people misunderstand why Anakin was the chosen one, as he is also the bad guy of the story. It's because the Jedi became so obsessed with political control and their power dominance, and essentially the Jedi lost their true purpose of releasing that control from within them and being servants of the Force, that they themselves almost became as bad as the Sith. And my hot take is that the Jedi would have become dark Force users themselves if Anakin didn't do what he needed to do, which was remove their control over the universe. Anakin essentially wiping the Jedi out resets the Order, allowing Luke to begin the new Order of Jedis that share the Qui-Gon Jinn philosophy. Qui-Gon Jinn being the only true Jedi of his time, because rather being focused on spiritual or political control, he releases himself from that burden and allows the Force to make the judgment as a deity that works through him. And I guess that you could take the moral of Star Wars as the release of ego over the control over situations will set you free and allow you to become one with the universe and work within what's best for the state of balance. So the real question is why? Why is there a game of the gods, this light versus dark? Why do these deities or energies even bother in dealing with the mortal realm? Why push and pull? What's in it for them? Well, there's multiple answers to that question. The first one is that it's pleasurable. Look at a character like Ryuk from Death Note. He is a Shinigami, a god of death. His world is miserably boring, dull and grey, and messing around with humans is extremely pleasurable for him. It's no different to watching a film or playing a game. It's just a hobby to Shinigami to waste their time. A scarier pleasurable reason might be that they feed from it. The Chaos Gods from Warhammer do it purely for their own pleasure and growth. Corrupting people and causing offense to occur empowers them, and the energy that they receive from messing around with humanity allows them to grow stronger in their own great game against each other. And when it comes to Cthulhu and the great old ones of the Lovecraft mythos, they just see humanity as insignificant ants, unworthy to even care about. It's not personal, it's just that their motives are beyond human conception. Their achievements, their dreams, and their goals are alien and are based on cosmic higher dimensional logic that a human couldn't even fathom of understanding, taking places within metaphysical realms and outside of time. And cosmic horror is truly something frightening on a soul level. It really makes mankind question their place in the universe and whether we are important to the grand plan or just completely unimportant to the grand scale of the universe. The moral of cosmic horror books like House on the Borderland or any Lovecraftian novel is that the physical will ultimately lose the war. Everything in our universe will one day be destroyed by cosmic events beyond our understanding, and that it could be a possibility that everything will collapse and crumble into nothing. And while traditional literature often features moral lessons emphasizing human redemption, love, and the triumph of good over evil, cosmic horror strips away these comforts. And maybe that sounds really sad and dark, but if we take it as that we should release our control over the physical and accept the reality that one day everything will be gone, maybe we could truly come to a peace with that and accept it on a deeper, more cosmic level. And I truly believe no matter how dark the world gets, it's important not to lose faith. The world of Dark Souls is a bit like that. It's a world that is dying and stuck in a corrupted cycle of the world dying and then forcefully being reborn over and over and over again. And the gods of the Dark Souls world are very selfish and refuse to change or give up their power. So the universe and time itself just keeps folding in on itself in a chaotic and unnatural loop, which causes corruption and a permanent cycle of death and rebirth. The moral is to let go and move on, that the state of release brings more freedom and light than the state of control. And even the gods struggle with this. It's no shock that the god Saturn devours his own children, because it's easier to devour your own children in a bloody cruel cycle than to accept the death of your ego and the release of your own power. This is why politicians will hold positions of power far into their 80s, even if they are brain dead from stress and old age and unable to do anything, because the lust for power is hypnotically attractive, and men will disallow change and growth around you just so they can keep that power. This is why the wise wizard gives up his power for the younger generation to take their claim for the world, because even though his wisdom is important and he has a large part to play in the war for humanity, it is the young that must wield the power for the world to prosper, or the world will devour into a state of chaos and futility. We see this in the West right now. Now that the West is run by the corpses of the past, they just want to hold on to the power while simultaneously destroying the West and building forts of delusion around themselves to avoid the inevitable consequences of their own power-hungry state. This is why it's so important to break bad habits in your own life while simultaneously releasing power. People and ideas that no longer serve you, that have become too familiar because a cycle of autopilot is already on and controlling you, is a dangerous way to become a hollowed soul, unable to even be conscious. I love the game Dark Souls because the moral of the game is no matter how hard it is and no matter how dark the world is, you always have the chance to try again as long as you're alive. And the human spirit is far more powerful than any deity that tries to oppress us. And your real goal is to keep trying, keep attempting what you want to achieve in your life. And you need to make sure that every time you fail, that you get back up on that horse and you try again, and that you don't allow it to consume you and turn you into a hollow husk of what you used to be. And if there is a great game of evil or selfish gods playing around with your life, the best way to absolve their power is to release yourself from your ego, which they'll manipulate to tempt you. And maybe in the game of the gods, denying your part in the game makes it easier to deal with the hard days. In every Greek play, the playwright would ask the audience a question, not a straight out question, but a moral question. And that question is, who is really in control of your actions? The gods of fate? Have they laid out everything for you? Can you blame those gods for the storms, the diseases, and the problems in your life? Or was it truly you? Was it your lack of actions or the actions that you took that led you to where you were? Because maybe you're not being controlled by gods of fate. Maybe you're in control of your own life, and it's your own actions causing the bad consequences around you. And just maybe, it's time to stop being a victim of consequences of fate, and to understand that the only person who has a control over your fate is yourself. And even if there are dark entities fighting against you, it's down to you to win. Demons will always mark you as a victim and as helpless, because helpless people lose battles. In Berserk, it's the outlier, the one who refuses to stand beneath demons, who defies his destiny. It takes guts to stand against a demonic with glory. You can get lost in the idea of outward entities controlling the weather of your life, that you forget that all along, you are the player on the light side. You are the entity of light who faces the evil. You are a candle in the dark, and your flame is entirely decided by how strong you decide to be. Wherever you are on this good green earth, thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for watching this video. And I hope that you like and subscribe and stay with me on this amazing journey that we will go through together. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you so much.
In this world, is the destiny of mankind controlled by some transcendental entity or law? Is it like the hand of God hovering above? At least it is true that man has no control, even over his own will.